The divine encounter the discovery beyond the Void. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of the EU's Defiance, watching stars streak past as her ship traveled through the Outer Rim territories. The year was 2387, and humanity had been exploring deep space for over a century. Sarah was a veteran of 12 exploration missions, but something about this journey felt different. They were farther from Earth than any human expedition had ever ventured. Following strange energy readings that defied conventional physics, the Defiance was humanity's most advanced exploration vessel, carrying a crew of 600 dedicated scientists, engineers, and military personnel. Sarah had handpicked most of her senior staff from among Earth's finest. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Rivera served as her tactical officer, a brilliant strategist who had graduated top of his class from the Solar Naval Academy. Dr. Lena Kozlov, their chief engineer, possessed an intuitive understanding of technology that bordered on magical. Lieutenant James Park handled communications with a gift for languages that had proven invaluable during first contact situations. Sarah's thoughts were interrupted when Dr. Kozlov's voice crackled through the ships. Communication system. Commander, please report to the bridge immediately. We're detecting something extraordinary. The urgency in Elena's normally calm voice sent Sarah hurrying toward the command center. The bridge buzzed with activity when Sarah arrived. Her senior staff were gathered around the central display, studying readings that seemed impossible. Report, Sarah commanded. Taking her position in the captain's chair, Marcus turned from the tactical station, his expression grave. Commander, we're detecting massive artificial structures in the Kepler 442 system. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases. Whatever built these structures, they're far more advanced than us. Dr. Kozlov added her analysis from the science station. The structures appear to be city-sized space stations positioned around multiple star systems. The technology shows evidence of matter manipulation at the quantum level. This isn't just advanced engineering, Commander. This is technology that seems to bend the laws of physics. Lieutenant Park looked up from his communication console. Ma'am, we're receiving a transmission. It's coming from the largest structure, and it's being broadcast on every frequency simultaneously. The signal is so powerful, it's overriding our ship's communication systems. Sarah felt a familiar chill run down her spine. In her experience, overwhelming displays of power usually meant trouble. Put it through the main speakers, Lieutenant. The voice of false divinity, the voice that filled the bridge, carried an authority that seemed to press against their minds. Even through the universal translator, Sarah could hear the arrogance and absolute certainty in every word. Inferior beings, you have entered the sacred domain of the eternal hierarchy. I am Supreme Architect Vorthok, Herald of the Divine Ascendancy. You will immediately halt your vessel and prepare for judgment. Sarah exchanged glances with her officers. The tone of the message reminded her of historical records of ancient Earth tyrants who claimed divine authority. She had studied enough history to recognize the patterns of oppression wrapped in religious rhetoric. Open a channel, Lieutenant Park, Sarah ordered. When the connection was established, she spoke with the calm authority of someone who had never bowed to false gods. This is Commander Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Defiance. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and understanding. We don't recognize any authority over free beings, divine or otherwise. The silence that followed lasted nearly a full minute. When Vorthok spoke again, his voice carried a note of confusion, as if he couldn't comprehend what he had just heard. You dare question the divine authority of the eternal hierarchy. For 10,000 cycles, we have ruled this galaxy. Every species that has encountered our magnificence has immediately recognized our godhood and submitted to our will. Dr. Kozlov was working frantically at her station, analyzing the energy patterns coming from the alien structures. She looked up with excitement in her eyes. "Commander, I'm detecting massive power fluctuations from their installations. Whatever they're doing to create these effects, it's requiring enormous energy expenditure. This isn't effortless divine power. It's advanced technology operating at maximum capacity." Sarah filed this information away while maintaining her diplomatic facade. "Supreme Architect, we respect your achievements, but we don't believe in submission based on technological superiority. If you're truly divine beings, surely you can appreciate our desire for peaceful coexistence rather than subjugation." Vorthak's image appeared on the main screen, and Sarah had to admit it was impressive. The alien stood nearly 4 meters tall, with crystalline skin that seemed to emit its own light. Geometric patterns covered his form, shifting and changing like living tattoos. Most striking were his eyes, which glowed with an inner fire that was both beautiful and terrifying. Peaceful coexistence. Vorthak's laugh echoed through the bridge like breaking glass. "We are the eternal hierarchy. We do not coexist. We rule. We are the architects of reality itself, the shapers of worlds, the masters of life and death. Observe our power and despair at your own insignificance." The display of technological terror space around the Defiance began to change in ways that hurt to observe. Stars seemed to bend and twist, colors that had no names filled the void, and reality itself appeared to fold in on itself. Several junior officers gasped in awe and fear, but Sarah noticed her senior staff remained focused on their instruments. Marcus was studying tactical readings intently. "Commander, they're using some kind of localized space-time manipulation. It's creating visual distortions, but our ship's integrity remains intact. This appears to be more show than substance." Dr. Kozlov nodded in agreement. "I concur. They're creating impressive visual effects, but the actual physical threat to our vessel is minimal. They're trying to overwhelm us psychologically rather than destroy us." Lieutenant Park added his observations from the communication station. "Ma'am, I'm intercepting their internal communications. They're discussing us in terms that suggest they've never encountered resistance before. They keep referring to us as anomalous primitives and questioning why we haven't surrendered yet." Sarah smiled grimly. Fear was a tool of oppressors throughout history, effective only as long as their victims believed in their power. "Supreme Architect, your light show is impressive, but we've seen aurora displays on Earth that were prettier. If you're truly gods, why do you need to work so hard to convince us?" The alien's perfect composure cracked slightly. "You mock the divine manifestation of our power. You dare suggest that the creators of worlds need to prove themselves to insects like you." "I'm suggesting that real power speaks for itself," Sarah replied calmly. "And real gods don't need to threaten people to earn respect." Dr. Kozlov looked up from her analysis with growing excitement. "Commander, I've been studying their quantum manipulation techniques. The energy requirements are staggering, but more importantly, I think I understand the principles behind their technology. It's sophisticated, but it's still technology. There's nothing supernatural about it." Vorthok overheard this exchange, and his glowing eyes blazed brighter. "Impossible. Our ascension transcends mere technology. We have become one with the fundamental forces of creation itself. We command matter and energy through divine will alone." Sarah stood from her command chair and walked closer to the view screen. If that were true, why are your ships consuming so much power? Why do I detect massive industrial facilities throughout your empire? Gods wouldn't need factories and power generators. The gathering storm, the supreme architect's image flickered, with what Sarah could only interpret as rage. You will regret your blasphemy, primitive creature. Behold the true might of the eternal hierarchy. The view screen showed dozens of massive vessels emerging from what appeared to be folded space around the Defiance. Each ship was easily 10 times larger than the human vessel, their hulls covered with the same shifting geometric patterns as their master. Asterisk. Marcus worked quickly at his tactical station. Commander, I'm reading 37 hostile vessels, all significantly larger than us. Each one is armed with the same quantum manipulation technology we observed earlier. Their combined firepower could level a planet. Lieutenant Park's voice was tight with concern. Ma'am, they're hailing us again. It sounds like an ultimatum. Vorthok's image reappeared, but now he was no longer alone. Behind him stood other members of the eternal hierarchy, all tall and imposing, their crystalline features radiating power and authority. Creatures of the vessel Defiance, you have witnessed the assembled might of gods. You have one final opportunity to acknowledge our divine supremacy and submit to our will. Kneel before the eternal hierarchy, and you will be granted the honor of serving us. Refuse, and you will be obliterated as an example to any who might question divine authority. Sarah looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. She saw determination in their eyes, not fear. These were people who had volunteered for humanity's most dangerous missions, who had chosen to venture into the unknown rather than accept the safety of the familiar. They were explorers, scientists, and defenders of human values. None of them were the type to kneel to false gods. Supreme Architect, Sarah said, her voice carrying across the bridge with quiet authority, humanity has a saying, those who demand respect usually don't deserve it. We've seen your technology, and it's impressive. But we've also seen your need to intimidate and threaten. That tells us more about you than your ships or your light shows ever could. She paused, meeting the alien leader's burning gaze directly. We are explorers, not conquerors. We are scientists, not slaves. We are human beings, and we bow to no one who proves their worth through fear rather than merit. If you want our respect, earn it through your actions, not your threats. The silence that followed was deafening. For several moments, the only sounds on the bridge were the quiet hum of ship systems and the breathing of the crew. Finally, Vorthok spoke, and his voice contained an emotion Sarah had never expected to hear from someone claiming to be a god. Uncertainty. No species has ever refused our divine mandate. In 10,000 cycles of rule, no primitive civilization has dared to stand against us. You are either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. Maybe both, Sarah admitted with a slight smile. But we'd rather die free than live as slaves, no matter how advanced our masters might be. Dr. Kozlov looked up from her station with alarming news. Commander, I'm detecting massive energy buildups across the alien fleet. Whatever they're planning, it's going to be significant. Marcus confirmed the readings from tactical. All enemy vessels are powering their primary weapon systems. Commander, I don't think they're bluffing anymore. Sarah returned to her command chair and settled in with the calm of someone who had always known this moment might come. Exploration beyond the known was inherently dangerous, and confronting the unknown sometimes meant facing impossible odds. But that had never stopped humanity before. All hands, battle stations, she announced over the ship's communication system. This is Commander Chen. We came out here to explore and discover. Instead, we've found an empire built on fear and false worship. As representatives of humanity and the values we hold dear, we will not submit to tyranny, no matter how powerful it claims to be. Today, we stand for every free being in this galaxy. Today, we show the universe that gods can bleed. The Defiance's crew moved with practiced efficiency, preparing their ship for a battle that would determine not just their fate, but possibly the future of galactic civilization itself. Asterisk the mortal truth: the battle begins. The first salvo from the Eternal Hierarchy's fleet was unlike anything in human military experience. Instead of conventional energy weapons or kinetic projectiles, the alien ships unleashed waves of distorted space-time that threatened to tear the Defiance apart at the molecular level. Reality around the human vessel became fluid, with gravity fluctuating wildly in the very fabric of space, seeming to stretch and compress. Commander. Sarah Chen gripped her command chair as the ship shuddered under the assault. Damage report. She called out over the screaming of stressed metal and failing systems. Dr. Alina Kozlov's hands flew over her engineering controls. Hull integrity holding at 78%, but our quantum stabilizers are being overwhelmed. Commander, they're trying to destabilize our molecular cohesion. If this continues, the ship will simply come apart. Marcus Rivera worked frantically at the tactical station. Enemy fleet is maintaining formation at maximum weapons range. They're not trying to destroy us quickly, they're trying to demonstrate their power by slowly taking us apart. Sarah realized this was still part of their psychological warfare. The aliens wanted her crew to watch their ship disintegrate piece by piece, to fully comprehend the futility of resistance before the end. It was the tactic of bullies and tyrants throughout history, designed to break the spirit before destroying the body. Lieutenant Park, are you still able to monitor their communications? Sarah asked. James Park nodded, his face pale but determined. Yes, ma'am. They're broadcasting to each other about the lesson they're teaching us. They want other species in the galaxy to witness what happens when someone defies the eternal hierarchy. Good, Sarah said with grim satisfaction. Then let's make sure the lesson they learn isn't the one they expected to teach. Dr. Kozlov, what do you need to stabilize our molecular cohesion? Alina studied her readings intently. I need to understand their quantum manipulation frequency. If I can match and counteract their space-time distortions, we can neutralize their primary weapon. How long do you need? Give me 5 minutes of uninterrupted analysis time. Sarah turned to Marcus. Can we give her 5 minutes? Marcus smiled with the confidence of someone who had never met a tactical problem he couldn't solve. Commander, they're trying to take us apart slowly for dramatic effect. That means they're not using maximum power. I can redistribute our shield harmonics to buy us the time we need, but it's going to get rough. Do it. Human ingenuity under fire. The next 5 minutes tested the limits of human engineering and determination. Dr. Kozlov worked with singular focus, analyzing the quantum patterns of the alien weapons while the ship bucked and rolled around her. Marcus constantly adjusted their defensive systems, playing a deadly game of technological chess with weapons that could reshape reality. Got it, Alina suddenly exclaimed. Commander, their quantum manipulation works by introducing specific frequency disruptions into local space-time. It's incredibly sophisticated, but it follows predictable mathematical models. I can generate counterfrequencies that will neutralize their effects. Sarah felt a surge of hope. Can you do more than just defend? Can you turn their own technology against them? Elena's eyes lit up with the enthusiasm of a scientist who had just made a breakthrough discovery. Commander, their ships are using the same quantum fields to maintain their structural integrity as they use for weapons. If I can reverse the polarity of our counter-frequency generators, I can destabilize their ships the same way they're trying to destabilize ours. Marcus looked up from his tactical display with growing excitement. Commander, I'm detecting something else. Their formation is designed to maximize the psychological impact of their attack, not tactical efficiency. They're clustered together to create a more impressive visual display. If Dr. Kozlov's plan works, we might be able to hit multiple ships simultaneously. Sarah made her decision. Do it. Show these false gods what happens when they underestimate human ingenuity. The modified quantum generators activated, sending waves of counter-frequency energy toward the alien fleet. The effect was immediate and spectacular. 3 of the massive hierarchy ships suddenly began to phase in and out of normal space uncontrollably. Their perfect crystalline hulls developed cracks that spread like spiderwebs across their surfaces. Supreme Architect Vorthek's image appeared on the main screen, but his perfect composure was completely gone. Impossible. How do primitive creatures manipulate the fundamental forces of creation? Our technology is blessed by divine essence itself. Sarah stood and walked to the center of the bridge. Your technology is impressive, but it's still just technology. And human beings have a talent for figuring out how things work, especially when our lives depend on it. One of the damaged hierarchy ships suddenly exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The other 2 continued to phase uncontrollably until they simply vanished, lost somewhere between dimensions. The remaining alien vessels broke formation, their captains clearly shocked by the destruction of their supposedly invincible comrades. Lieutenant Park was monitoring the alien communications with growing amazement. Commander, their fleet command is in chaos. Some captains are demanding explanations for how mortals could destroy divine vessels. Others are questioning whether they're really gods if they can be killed by primitives. The revelation spreads deep. Kozlov continued her analysis of the alien technology, and her discoveries were revolutionary. Commander, I've been studying the quantum signatures of their ships and installations. These beings aren't gods. They're not even that different from humans biologically. They've used advanced genetic therapy and cybernetic enhancement to extend their lifespans, but they're mortal. They age, they die, and they bleed just like any other species. Sarah felt pieces of an ancient puzzle falling into place. How long have they been maintaining this deception, based on the technological patterns? I'd estimate their empire began around 12,000 years ago. They discovered quantum manipulation technology and used it to conquer their neighbors. Over time, they convinced everyone, including themselves, that their technology made them gods. Marcus was studying the tactical situation with professional interest. Commander, their fleet is starting to withdraw, but I'm reading massive energy signatures approaching from multiple star systems. They're calling in reinforcements from across their empire. Sarah realized this was the critical moment. If the hierarchy had time to regroup and adapt to human technology, Earth's civilization might not survive the eventual retaliation, but she also saw an opportunity. The doubt they had sown among the alien fleet was spreading. If they could prove conclusively that the eternal hierarchy were mortals pretending to be gods, their entire empire might collapse from within. Lieutenant Park, Can you broadcast our message across their communication networks? Yes, ma'am. Their systems are designed to carry the voices of gods across the galaxy. I can piggyback our signal on their own broadcasts. Do it. Send this message to every species in their empire. Sarah composed her thoughts and spoke directly to the billions of enslaved beings across the galaxy. People of all worlds, this is Commander Sarah Chen of the human vessel Defiance. For thousands of years, you have lived under the rule of beings who claimed to be gods. Today, we have proven they are mortal. Their ships can be destroyed. Their technology can be understood and countered. They age, they fear, and they die just like any other living beings. She paused, knowing that her next words might reshape. Galactic civilization. The eternal hierarchy are not gods. They are conquerors who used advanced technology to enslave entire species. But they are not invincible. They are not eternal, and they are not worthy of your worship. Rise up. Reclaim your freedom. Show the galaxy that no one deserves to rule over others simply because they claim divine authority. The galaxy awakens. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Across dozens of star systems, enslaved species began to revolt against their self-proclaimed divine masters. The hierarchy's communication networks carried reports of uprisings, rebellions, and declarations of independence. Ships that had served the false gods for millennia suddenly turned their weapons against their former masters. Supreme Architect Vorthok appeared on the bridge's main screen one final time. His crystalline features were cracked with age and stress, and his glowing eyes had dimmed to a mere flicker. You have doomed the galaxy to chaos, human. Without our divine guidance, these primitive species will destroy themselves in endless wars. Sarah looked at the alien leader with something approaching pity. They'll figure it out. All sentient beings deserve the chance to make their own mistakes and learn from them. That's what freedom means, even if it's messy and imperfect. And if they fail, if the galaxy burns in the fires of war and revolution, then at least it will burn free, Sarah replied firmly. Better to die fighting for freedom than to live forever on your knees. Dr. Kozlov looked up from her station with urgent news. Commander, I'm detecting massive system failures across the hierarchy installations. Their quantum manipulation technology requires belief from their operators to function at maximum efficiency. As doubt spreads through their ranks, their technology is becoming less effective. Marcus confirmed the readings from Tactical. The alien reinforcement fleets are turning back. Several ships have already joined the rebellion. Commander, I think we've won more than just a battle. We've won a war of ideas. Lieutenant Park was monitoring communications across the galaxy with wonder in his voice. Ma'am, species that have been enslaved for thousands of years are declaring independence. They're forming alliances, sharing technology, and working together to build a new galactic civilization based on cooperation rather than domination. Sarah felt a profound sense of satisfaction. They had come to explore the unknown and had instead liberated an entire galaxy. It was more than any explorer could have hoped for. The new dawn 6 months later. The EU's Defiance returned to Earth, carrying representatives from 43 different species. The former subjects of the Eternal Hierarchy had formed the Galactic Cooperation Council, dedicated to the principles of freedom, equality, and peaceful exploration that humanity had demonstrated during their first contact. Supreme Architect Vorthok and the remaining members of the hierarchy had been offered amnesty in exchange for sharing their advanced technology freely with all species. Some had accepted, choosing to live as mortals among equals rather than die as false gods. Others had retreated to distant star systems, unable to accept the loss of their divine status. Sarah stood once again in the observation deck of the Defiance. But now she wasn't alone. Beside her stood Ambassador Kethril of the Altarian Republic, former subjects of the hierarchy who had become humanity's closest allies in building the new galactic civilization. "Your species did something remarkable," Commander Kethril said in perfect English. His people had evolved from aquatic creatures, and his scaled skin caught the light from passing stars. "You faced beings with technology that seemed godlike, and refused to bow. Why?" Sarah considered the question carefully. "Because we learned long ago that anyone who demands to be worshipped usually isn't worthy of respect. Real gods don't need to threaten people or demand submission. They inspire through their actions, not their power. And if you had been wrong, if they truly had been gods," Sarah smiled, looking out at stars that now hosted free civilizations instead of enslaved worlds, "then we would have died free, and someone else would have eventually exposed the truth. Tyrants always fall in the end, no matter how powerful they seem. It just takes someone willing to stand up and say no." The galaxy was vast and full of wonders yet to be discovered. But now, those wonders would be explored by free beings working together, rather than subjects serving false gods. And at the center of it all was a simple truth that humanity had proven beyond doubt. No one, no matter how advanced or powerful, had the right to claim dominion over others simply because they could. The age of the eternal hierarchy was over. The age of galactic democracy had begun, and it all started with one human ship that refused to kneel. Asterisk.